In 22 days, we're going to the polls, boys, and this man in our studio, standing next to you two guys, could be Prime Minister of Australia, Bill Shorten.
Yes.
For the first time, welcome to the Grill team.
Good morning, gentlemen. Great to be on.
Thanks, mate.
Good to see you.
Bill, how you doing? How you holding up, mate? You're looking fit, I must say.
I've got to say, I'm the fittest I've been in 20 years. Mind you, that wasn't saying much about my 20s, but I'm doing better now than I was then.
Bill, a couple of things I want to ask you from the top. And the first one is more about the human story, in the fact that, don't take offence to this, when your security guard, when I was out there, I asked him, I said, oh, how's the boss going? He said, no, he's going good. He said, he's a really good bloke. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's good. And then when you walked in, Bill, I met you for the first time, and you are a really good bloke.
You can tell that.
Yeah, no, and this is true. You're a really good fella. You're really earthy, and you seem like really good company. You're funny. You're a funny bastard.
You're asking me on a date, or you're about to say but?
Oh, it's going to be a
No, there is a but coming.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
But why do we get the Bill Shorten in front of the camera, Bill?
Because I'm standing there.
No. But why do we get that Bill Shorten?
The political
Oh, you mean a sort of a more controlled, sort of operation?
Well, the Bill Shorten I just met is completely different to the Bill Shorten I see on the news.
Well, I've got to say that I've now been opposition leader for 1,000 days, and I've learned a lot in that path. There's been some good days, plenty of bad days, but I've learned a lot. And what I've learned in particular is the more you're just yourself, I think people relate to that. So sometimes you've got a whole battery of cameras on you, and you feel you've got to speak differently or present in a particular manner. And what I'm enjoying about this 8 weeks of this campaign, and whilst it wasn't my idea to give Australia the longest election in 50 years, that was the other guys, what I'm really enjoying is getting back to the basics of talking to people every day. People are interesting. People motivate me. So the more I just talk to people, I think the more you come across as relaxed. And I'm enjoying myself, I've got to say. This is a great opportunity to outline our positive ideas for the future.
Because the Labor Party's been on the ropes. It's been really difficult. It's been a difficult time. And I remember when you came in as opposition leader, I remember you during the Beaconsfield mine disaster, and you come across, you were so strong, and I thought, here we go. We've got a bloke here, And then unfortunately, Bill, when you come in, it was like, okay, we've got another politician rather than a leader. How difficult is it to be yourself in politics?
Well, I think you've got to be true to yourself first. You can try and say in politics things which you think will make people like you, but the truth of the matter is then you've got to have a better and better memory, because if you're always trying to tell people what they want to hear, you can forget about what you think's important. I like listening to people. I was down in northern Tasmania yesterday with the flood victims. And I tell you what that reminded me of. Northern Tasmania, a lot of small towns.
Yep.
It was a glimpse of an Australia I think people in the big cities think doesn't exist anymore, but it does. And it even exists in our big communities too. What happened with these floods is they sort of came from nowhere very quickly overnight. People wake up, there's 2 foot of water in the house, the power's gone. And the reaction of the people I was speaking to is, sure, the water was above the floor lines, their carpets are wrecked, the family albums are wrecked. But they were more concerned about their neighbours, obviously getting their kids out, their neighbours, is everyone else okay? Just reminds you that most people are really very decent, and they'll worry about the most important things first, and some of the stuff which we worry about every day, how much you've got or your possessions, is a second order issue to looking after each other. So community's important. So being in Northern Tassie yesterday just reminded me, just like I think, Mark, you were telling me about a walk which they do between Bathurst and Blaxland. Well,
It's called the pub.
It is with MGs involved.
No, I think there's a good cause there too, isn't it?
Yes.
You get the bus or you get some equipment, incubators, whatever's needed. You get out beyond Canberra and you get out beyond the sort of tall city buildings. There's a lot of good people trying to make ends meet, raise their families, look after each other. And yesterday, we are a great country, no question. We
on this show are very much similar. We have to be ourselves, otherwise it goes through to the speakers and people go, I'm going to turn them over.
Well, they don't like us.
And that's why we're the worst blokes on radio. But we have got a heart. We've got soft hearts. We love helping other people. And we've got a whole heap of questions here that we've been given. But the question I'd love to know from you, if you are elected Prime Minister, what is the first thing on your agenda?
I want to make sure that we've got properly funded schools. I'm going to sort out the schools. And by that, it doesn't just mean you spend more money. What I want to do is make sure that our schools are, that every kid, doesn't matter if you come from a working class suburb, country town, doesn't matter if your parents have got PhDs and are millionaires or if your parents are just a wharfie and a nurse. that kids get equal opportunity in schools. We get the schools right, we set kids up right for life. That's the first thing I'd start working
I
on.
like it.
Okay, Bill, when people sort of talk about the Liberal government, obviously Turnbull started off 70, 80%, approval rating. That's come down. Now it's 50-50. It's going to be a very, very close election. They do talk about the fact they believe that Turnbull and Morrison have got a pretty good track record when it comes to sort of putting the country on track in terms of financial stuff. Now, you've come up with a 10-year plan. The first 4 years, we're going to go into serious sort of deficit, if you like. But then after that, you're going to be okay. What if you get into this election and in 4 years' time we say, you know what, we don't want you anymore? Are we going to be in a really bad situation? Those people sitting on the fence, what do you say to people about that?
Well, there's a couple of things you said. First of all, without being too much talk about the other team, since they've come in, the deficit's tripled, debt's up, inequalities at a 75-year high, the economy's in the doldrums, really.
So you think Turnbull and Morrison haven't done a good job?
How much of that have they inherited, though, Bill?
Well, they've been in for 1,000 days now. You're a champion of football. How much does a team in one year blame the team from 4 years ago? At some point, you've got to stand up and be accountable for your own actions. They've been in for 1,000 days.
Yeah.
If Newcastle you don't at the moment.
Yeah, well,
Okay. But you get my point, though. They've been in for 1,000 days and they want another 1,000 days. And all they can do is really talk about us. Now, I'm happy to talk about us. What we've said is that we want to get the debt down, but we don't want to do it by smashing family budgets. So what we've said is we'll make changes, but you can't just bring them in overnight and make retrospective changes to negative gearing you've got to give people a bit of a path to the future. You can't just simply wake everyone up one day and say, hey, you're going the wrong way, we're going somewhere else. Australians don't want surprises. So what we're doing is outlining a clear plan. And in 3 years' time, we'll be judged on what we've done in the intervening 3 years. But no one should have a job for life. And the truth of the matter is that you're only as good as your next contribution you make to the country. We're very up for, if we can make sure that people can see a doctor without paying a fortune to go and see a doctor, a kid can get a good quality education. If we build more public transport in our big cities, so we do something about road congestion, they're all good, solid achievements which you can measure us by.
Bill, the plan that you outlined for Australia, I mean, unsurprisingly, the opposition party, but there are a lot of people are real doubters. They think it's full of holes. They point to an $80 billion black hole.
Oh, that's what our opponents say. That's just wrong.
But then we heard the thing back was, no, you're $18 million out. I mean, but still, that's a $62 billion black hole, Bill.
No, well, I don't accept that there is that, government comment or propaganda is correct at all. There's a choice here. Mr. Turnbull and his team want to give a $50 billion tax cut to large corporations. He wants to give the big banks a tax relief of $7.5 billion. We want to make sure that you can still go to the doctor and not pay an upfront fee. We want to make sure that if you need an X-ray, that you don't have to pay a big upfront fee to get the X-ray. It's about choices. Mm-hmm. We'll make sure that our savings are greater than what we spend. But what we'll do is what we will spend on compared to what the government will is totally different. Schools, infrastructure, Medicare. That's what's our priorities, because we think that this country works best when working class and middle class people are getting a fair go. We don't believe in just handing tax cuts to the very top end of town. They're a very clear choice.
Two very hot topics. Labor has been critical of the government's immigration and detention centre as far as stopping the boats and deaths at sea, as well as marriage equality. Where do you stand on both of these issues?
Within the first 100 days, if we're elected, we'll put a law to the Parliament to legalise marriage equality. I do not know why some Conservatives are so hung up about who gets to marry who. So we think that I can't believe the nation would have to spend $160 million if the Liberals get back to have an opinion poll on someone's relationship.
No, I agree.
Most of us didn't have to have an opinion poll on who we should marry.
I think on common sense alone, I think we're all with you on that one.
And in terms of immigration, we will stop the people smugglers too. There's no difference. On July the 3rd, whoever wins the election, the people smugglers won't be back in business, full stop.